What's up, everybody? Today, I want to talk to you guys about a concept on this 100-day challenge of mine. And it relates to the great motivational speaker, Les Brown. And it's a lesson I learned from him when he said, never tell a story without making a point, and never make a point without telling a story. And very simply, what that means is that in this video and in this video series, I'm going to make it a point to every video start with the intention of the message and then give you stories to back it up. So in this 100-day challenge, which those of you guys who are following me or subscribing or new to the video series, basically I'm doing a 100-day challenge where I'm posting every single day for 100 days. Whereas normally I post interviews with a lot of high-level entrepreneurs, and I've gotten to meet amazing men and women, the Tony Robbinses of the world. On this channel, I'm just going to be speaking from the heart, raw and unfiltered thoughts. So if you came to this YouTube channel from that one, or you're just checking it out, pay attention, enjoy, subscribe, and watch all of the 100 videos I'm going to do in a row. It's going to be fun. All right. So no further ado, let's get into it. With that in mind, I want to share a story with you about the power of giving yourself permission to take imperfect action. And that's what this video is about. So if you've ever felt like you were in a place where you want to do more in your life, you want to get to the next level, but you feel stuck, you feel lost, you feel confused, then this video is for you, and pay attention because I'm going to make it really efficient. I'm going to be speaking to the young version of me that I wish would take this advice, plus the me now who's taking this advice by giving myself permission to do this 100-day video challenge. All right. So again, the point is to give yourself permission to take imperfect action when you feel stuck. Okay. And in any area of your life, sometimes you need to kind of do something radical to break yourself out of the rut or the habit of being stuck, right? Because getting stuck can kind of become a habit. And so you want to not be stuck. You want to be in momentum so that by default, you're not stuck. Does that make sense? And so then the next question is, well, how do you create momentum? And so that's what this video is about, because to start momentum, you kind of need to push the ball over the edge. You need to push the boulder down the hill. You need to take that imperfect action, but first give yourself permission to. And I think truly, if there's one thing I've learned from interviewing everyone from multi-million, multi-billion-dollar entrepreneurs, my own life going from zero to my first 10K to my first 100K to whatever it is that it's always the ability to mentally give yourself permission first that opens up the door. All right, so let's get into the story of giving myself permission. So I'm gonna give you 3 stories. Number 1 is how I quit my job at Tesla and why that gave me such a confidence to really start what I'm doing now. Okay, so I'm gonna give you 3 stories. Number 1 is how I quit my job at Tesla and gave myself permission to start my video production business. That's number 1. Number 2 is, I wrote some notes here. Number 2 is giving myself permission to ask questions, building that habit. When I was a kid in class, I was always the kid to raise my hand and ask questions. Sometimes, I'm sure you've been there, you get a little embarrassed, you don't build that skill set. But in life, I have found that the marketplace and content and all these other arenas of life reward that. So that second thing is giving myself permission to ask successful people advice. I would translate what I learned in school of raising my hand when I had a question to actually when I would meet a successful person with a Ferrari at a gas station or a successful business owner, how that cultivated the habit of building confidence to give myself permission to take imperfect action, to ask a silly question, and the doors that those imperfect, stupid, silly ideas that I didn't judge myself for actually would open up huge blessings down the road. So I'll get into that. And last but not least, number 3, the imperfect action I'm taking to do this 100-day YouTube challenge where I'm fumbling my words. I got my notes here. It actually feels so liberating coming from a world of debating it for years when I usually do polished, high quality, professional interviews. So if you're enjoying this video so far, let me know. I'm gonna get better at these raw videos. But anyways, yeah. So number 1, let's start with it. So the story of how I quit my job. So how I quit my job was actually interesting. I had done a bunch of odd jobs. Getting out of college, I had tutored for $10 an hour. And then which by the way, I just found a friend who I was looking around. I think minimum wage at the time was $8 or $9. I had a friend who was making $10 an hour. And I was like, dang, this guy's making $10 an hour. He's a baller. And so I wanted to learn how he did that. So I just hit him up and I said, hey, bro, how are you doing that? Right. And he told me, hey, I'm tutoring for this company. So then imperfect action, I just reached out to the company online. I cold called. They said, here's the application, filled it out. Right. Got my first couple of jobs that way. Later, I would find people making $20 an hour, $25 an hour. I literally was like, how much do I want to make? I saw people were making more and more. So I would just Google jobs that make that. And I saw that tutoring was a cool way to get ahead because whereas other jobs, you needed to have a skill set or a license or whatever, I saw with tutoring, that if you just learn the material, you could teach it for a premium, right? So I started doing that. That was my first job. And then later I got into door to door sales. I was selling solar door to door. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar and I saw a guy next to me. I took imperfect action to say, hey, man, I see on your sheet there you make 400 grand a year and you're in your 20s. If you don't mind me asking, how do you do that, right? So it's these little imperfect steps that got me incrementally higher income, but never allowed me to break through. Long story short, I start doing well in solar, knocking door to door. I'll probably do another video on the series here about what I learned knocking doors. But I'm giving you the evolution of my career before I quit my job. So just roll with me. I want you to feel the whole story here. So there's a pattern of imperfect action. So you just pay attention. You'll get what I mean, and hopefully apply it to your life too, because it'll inspire you. I think it's pretty cool. Um, so then I excelled doing solar, and later got recruited, or I saw someone else. One of my friends, she was working at Tesla, so then I picked her mind. I forget how it happened, but long story short, I got an interview, went to the interview, got the job at Tesla. I was at Tesla for shy of a year, inside of a year, and I just felt like I wanted more. Everyone was so excited, and I was starting to excel in sales and do well. But I wanted to do more. I didn't know how. I had this vision of the podcast, and so this was the first of the three stories I'm going to get into. But that first one was me giving myself permission to quit my job after about, God, 2 or 3 months of really just debating quitting before I actually did it. I did not have a nest egg of financial savings. I maybe had $1,200 in the bank, maybe 1,800, less than 2 grand, significantly less than that. I had made money in it, but I was spending it, self sabotaging because I always wanted more. But it was like, when you have a job, maybe you can relate where you have a job, you're making money, but it's enough to keep you there, but not enough to keep you fulfilled, right? You're kind of stuck in no man's land. So that's where I was. And so bottom line is, I knew I had to get out, right? Like I knew I had to figure it out. And I just wanted to quit, not because I was lazy, but because I wanted to free up my time and energy to do more. And I knew myself. I didn't have the mental discipline or bandwidth to like, oh, let me stay here for another 6 months, save money, do the responsible thing. I just couldn't. And it was very scary. And I tried getting a lot of advice. And when you ask for advice and you're trying to look for someone to tell you what you want to hear versus what they want to tell you. And so long story short, thankfully I had the guts to trust myself and I just quit. And part of quitting was taking imperfect action to trust that I would make money some other way. So this is the story of how I actually started my production company at the same time period that I quit my job. So long story short, when I was working at Tesla, I had a client come in who uh, basically was doing real estate, and he wanted certain videos made for his production, branding and all that. And so he wanted us to produce some videos to help him really build his brand and get his name out there. And I had gotten little requests from people asking me because by that time I had started little by little tinkering with YouTube videos, but nothing significant. And he was like, well, hey, what else do you do? You're a good salesperson here at Tesla, but like, I feel like you have so much more potential. And I said, well, my passion is in producing these types of videos and directing these inspiring videos. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, can you produce a video for my office? And I was in my head, I was like, shoot, like, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I kind of do, but I kind of don't. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Right. I just imperfect action, right? Gave myself permission to take imperfect action. And what I ended up doing was finding out what exactly they wanted. They wanted some marketing videos for their office. And so I basically, with no clue, no experience, right? I used to produce and direct, but when I say that, it's like I would guide my friends who had video stuff in college or high school. We'd make skate videos or artistic cinematic films, but I never had actual production experience. I didn't know how to edit, turn on, press the record button and shutter speeds and all that. Like I didn't know all that. Maybe turn on and off and press the record button. That was about it. But I told him, yes, absolutely, I can make a production video for you, even though I kind of didn't, to be honest with you. And what I ended up doing was I got a quote for them. I think it was like for 4,500 bucks, or I forget the amount. And I said, how much, what's your guys' budget for this project? And they told me. And so then I asked a videographer friend, I said, hey, how much would it cost you to do this? And he said, well, to shoot it and edit it, it'll be about 2,000, 2,500 bucks. So I said, perfect. If I pay him 2,500 bucks, pay him even more than he wants, right? Pay him really well for what he wants. I can kind of direct it, come in, give creative input, but not have to actually film anything or edit anything. But I can just be the creative eye overlooking it, producing, directing, whatever it is, playing to my skill set. Then maybe if I sold it for 4,500 and I paid my guy 2,500 to do it all, I'd make that $2,000 difference or whatever it was. And so, long story short, that's exactly what happened. I gave myself permission to do it. We closed the deal. They paid us. I paid my guy. He was happy. My video guy was happy. The client was happy, and I made money. And so, just like that, I was like, I made my first few $1,000s learning about the power of leveraging other people's talent, right? Because he has the talent of video and editing, but maybe not the talent of sales, right? Or getting the client. I brought that talent and combined was able to be like, now I see how to compartmentalize value. So if you trace the cord back, the reason it's important to give you this context is because you'll notice a pattern of me giving myself permission to both do and not do things that felt aligned that would later lead to a business opportunity, right? And so little by little, once I made that first few $1,000s, I went, I wonder if I could do that again and again and again, and then build a team around it, and maybe sell bigger packages. And then little by little, that opened up the whole world of video production for me. And I realized, I don't have to be a videographer or editor. If I manage the sales and I can have a brand that brings people in, and I can build a team on the back end, boom, now I can build some value, right? So that's number one that changed my life, giving myself permission to quit my job and start a business, and in one deal make a chunk of a few $1,000s. It opened up the possibilities. So that was a game changer. Number one. Number two story is really the habit of taking imperfect action. And some of you guys might know the story of having the confidence to give yourself permission to ask people questions. But I was always like that. When I would go to car shows when I was younger, I see a local successful entrepreneur, or there was a trade show or a guest speaker, or even in high school or college, wherever in the world you're based, there's always somebody, some neighbor, somebody in your environment, a friend's parent, whatever. I would always ask questions about how they became successful and what's their advice and what's their wisdom, at the risk of sounding silly or stupid or whatever. And it's so funny that those same questions that I was once criticized for being silly ended up being what I would dominantly do for a living, asking world leaders in their business and all these industries questions that people would love, millions of people would enjoy. So that was pretty cool on my main YouTube channel, The Passionate Few. So giving myself permission in that regard ended up building a tremendous amount of momentum. But that goes to an even another level, right? Because then I gave myself permission to do scary things. Like some of you guys may or may not know, I've interviewed the creator of Hot Cheetos, the $1 billion founder of Quest Nutrition, Tom Bilyeu. Disney actually ended up making a movie about the creator of Hot Cheetos, which is amazing because I was the first to capture a long, epic story that got over like 500,000 views and just had a huge impact, was on the news. I forget if it was Good Morning America and all this, but I ended up getting those interviews with him, Grant Cardone. Just there's so many, dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs by going to seminars, winging it. Grant Cardone, for example, he lives in Miami. He's a famous real estate entrepreneur, if you guys might know him. He's from, I've told the story before, but he's from Miami. I saw that he was in LA. I literally just saw on his Instagram story that he was going to be at a restaurant in LA. He had mentioned it in passing to his wife, Elaine, in the background. And I gave myself permission, as crazy as it sounds, when I was just launching my podcast and didn't really have that much experience. Drove to that restaurant, 2.5, almost 3 hours in Beverly Hills, waited outside the restaurant with my heart racing. And then when him and his wife came out, I pitched them on being on the podcast, and they ended up saying yes. Crazy leap. And then by giving myself permission to go there, do that, meet him, giving myself permission to take imperfect action, to ask him to be on my podcast. And in my head, I was like, so many limiting beliefs. I don't have an audience. I don't have followers. I don't even have a videographer or editor. I met him days before, but I pitched Cardone and I brought up all of his objections in advance. I was like, hey, Grant, I know you're in town only for a little bit here, but I'm a big fan, love what you do. I would love to interview on the podcast. I'm just starting. I know you would normally never do this, but I would love the privilege to honor you even for 1 hour of your time, and we'll come to you, make it easy. Right? I brought up all the objections in advance so that he would be disarmed, so to speak, came from a place of value. And he was like, you drove all the way here 3 hours just to ask me to be on your podcast? And I was like, yes, sir. He was like, I like you, man. He's like, all right, I'll give you a podcast interview. A couple of days later, we shot it. And within weeks of giving myself permission to do that, I ended up having the most watched and viewed, listened to podcast with Grant and Elena Cardone on the channel. I'm sorry, in the world at that time. It was actually super pop, and he posted all over social media. They reposted my clips. I started getting followers. In one chess move, I was able to get what a lot of people, that was a high leverage move, right? I'll do another video on that. But you see how like that just sometimes it's like one action, one big action you give yourself permission to do could get quote unquote more done productively for your life or business than 100 other mini moves that you have already been doing, right? So this is why giving yourself permission to take imperfect action can kind of leapfrog you sometimes in whatever area of your own life that this may exist. And I guarantee you, if you're listening to this, there's some parallel. So I want to ask you, like, what's an area of your life you could do something like this? Maybe it's that crazy one that you think is so silly it's almost embarrassing to explain to somebody else. I have found that those are always rewarded somehow in the marketplace. Even if you just learn something feedback wise, it will always teach you something that'll make you better, sharper, wiser. And guess what? You can always try again. And if you do that long enough, amazing things will happen. So, anyways, I digress. But long story short is I ended up doing that interview with Cardone and Elena. That interview blows up. Indirectly, we start promoting their 10X event. So I start making a little bit of money from affiliate marketing. I'm introduced to a lot of other high-level entrepreneurs that are like, whoa, you've worked with Grant. All of a sudden, the Ed Milet's and these other entrepreneurs start being down to be on the show. And so little by little, every one gives me social proof and credibility for the next one. And so I literally went from never having a podcast or show to like my first 1, 2, 3 years very, very quickly, first few months, getting Tom Bilyeu in the DMs because I DM'd him a bunch of times, plus the Cardone thing that opened the door for Cardone and Milet. And then the creator of Hot Cheetos, I tried to find him a zillion times. I found his suit tailor. I tried emailing him. I tried messaging him. I tried everything you could imagine. I ended up going to 3 speaking engagements with him. And again, I'm doing this stuff, but when not in a needy, naggy place. I'm doing it from a respectful, elegant persistence place. Not needy, not over gradient, very respectful, very patient, very kind place. Good temperament, I would say. Um, but I'm still giving myself permission. And it's hard because I have all these limiting beliefs. When I'm driving to Grand Cardone, I'm like, God, this is stupid. What am I doing? I don't even have money in the gas tank. I'm like, it's like I'm not winning in life right now. I quit my job. Like, what am I really? What are the odds? I'm really gonna drive to Beverly Hills, interview Grand Elena Cardone, and people are gonna watch it, and then have a show. Like, silly, but it worked. It worked. And so that was like a big moment. The other thing was for the creator of Hot Cheetos, I went to 3 different speaking engagements, and he would get off stage and I would say, hey, big fan, nice to meet you. By the way, I have a podcast. He would say, no, no, no. And then finally, that third time, after I drove several times, he was just like, after I pitched him off stage, again, elegantly, respectfully, he was like, man, you don't give up, huh? You're persistent. And I said, yes, sir. Think of me as the young man you once were when you wanted a chance for somebody to give you an opportunity with Hot Cheetos. Because for those that don't know, the creator of Hot Cheetos was actually a janitor at Frito-Lay, the company. And he cold called and pitched the CEO of Frito-Lay on the idea of Hot Cheetos, which ended up being the multi-billion-dollar successful product it is today. And now spawning Richard Montañez, who's become a good friend of mine, invited me to South by Southwest for the premiere with Eva Longoria. Like, I was privileged to be invited to that. I ended up becoming friends with him. We've been in touch. I've been into his charity events. We've kept in touch over the years, and he's really become a mentor to me in a lot of ways. But at one point, it was just a dream to get to know him, let alone get to go to the premiere of his film or get to see an adaptation of his story of going from a janitor and his wife and their humble beginnings to actually, the huge success that he was able to have. But I was always driven by these inspirational stories, and so I wanted to capture them. And so those are just 2 quick examples, and there's a myriad of them. And I'm getting better and better at organizing these thoughts, but I just want to flow from the heart here. That kind of opened my life and changed my life and opened doors that could have never been opened had I never gave myself permission to open my own doors of imperfect action, if you will. And then the third story of the 3, you just heard the first 2. The last one, number 3, is this challenge I'm doing here. And basically inside of this challenge, and I invite you guys to do it too, I'm really committed to just creating 100 YouTube videos in a row, mostly for me, but also for you, because Alex Hormozy has a great saying in business. He says, the work works on you more than you work on it. And so for me, doing these 100 videos is a culmination of me wanting to share things from the soul, always feeling repressed by the content and the weight of, I do this huge interview and then people are like, yeah, that's great, but who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who do you have on? And so it's like this, to be honest with you, it's a lot of pressure because it's like, dude, I just interviewed this person or met this person. And all people care about, just like, great, what's next? What's next? And I get it. And I appreciate the love, and I'm privileged to be in a position where I get to do for a living. But at a certain token, I have things on my heart, on my soul that I want to share with the world, unfiltered and raw and not so polished with amazing editing. So, anyways, this is a real time live example. Instead of just, sharing with you stories of the past, I wanted to create something kind of weird and crazy and do stuff in real time in the present with you. So, number three is, although I've had many other ways I've given myself permission and will continue to grow, number three is this actual YouTube challenge, posting 100 videos in a row. And I want to invite you guys, because I've had success on my podcast and YouTube channel interviewing people long form, but I wanted to diversify the content and format. And so that's why I'm doing it on this new channel as a little social experiment. But I want to encourage you guys, whether you're watching this and you're a fan of mine, or you're a brand new listener, brand new watcher, whatever it is, comment down below. Let me know what you like about this, if this video makes sense, if you have any questions. But also, like I said, I want to encourage you guys, if you have a YouTube channel, to do your own 30-day challenge, right? And really see, like, how can you start creating content in a way that's easy, not stressful, where you're not getting overwhelmed, doesn't have to be polished, doesn't have to be perfect, but you just get it out there. Kind of like Andy Frisella's 75 hard for working out. I want to encourage you guys. You don't have to do 100 days in a row crazy challenge like me. I'm doing that for me, just to put the pressure on myself, right? No pressure, no diamond. We'll see how I do. But for you guys, I want to encourage you guys to, whereas I have a polished, successful channel that's growing, and I want this to be a separate sort of free space for 100 days, so to speak. I want to encourage you guys in your own way to either recommit to a channel you've been creating if you've been wanting to create a YouTube channel, or start from scratch and do something similar to this. And so I'm super excited to be doing this. And I want to encourage you guys, if you enjoyed this video, like this video, if you think there's a lot of depth here, to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. But also in the description down below, we put a link to a little YouTube challenge form. If you're interested, you can learn from me and my team, and maybe even join me for some coaching in this challenge to help you grow your YouTube channel, maybe help you do your own 30-day challenge for phase one, or maybe you want to go up to phase two or phase three and do 100 days like a crazy son of a gun like me. But yeah, I'd love to invite you to do that as well. And yeah, I'm super excited. That's it. Raw thoughts. So anyways, hope this video helps you. Hope you give yourself permission to take that imperfect action. And let me know what you like, dislike about these videos. I'm doing my best, to be honest. I'm sure a lot of you guys will be like, get to the point, or I hear all these criticisms I imagine in my head. But at the end of the day, I'm doing it from the soul, from the heart. And so I want to get better at these videos. So yeah, apply this stuff. Hope it helps. It's changed my life, and I hope it changes yours. No matter what you're going through right now, realize that it wouldn't be put on you if you could not handle it. All right. Love you guys. God bless. And remember, go out there and give yourself permission. If you've been waiting for a sign, if you've been looking to take action, whether with us, whether with yourself, whether coaching programs, or you want to follow me in any of the free resources down below, the Telegram, my social media handles, apply for coaching, whatever it is, or even just in your own self, in your own mind, with your own commitments, go for it. Do it. Let this be the sign you've been looking for to take imperfect action. Recommit to something that pressures you to level up, and give yourself permission to take imperfect action. Beautiful things will happen when you do. All right, that's it. And I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to subscribe, like it. God bless. Peace.